Black Janitor blew bubbles to calm an autistic little girl in crisis, not knowing her billionaire mother was watching. Get away from her. That girl might bite. The security guard's cry echoed through the marble. Lobby of Wardstone Corporation like a whip. Marcus Williams froze in the middle of the hallway, still holding the mop as he watched the chaotic scene unfold before him. At the center of the commotion, a little blonde girl of about 6 was crouched on the cold floor, rocking back and forth, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. Her blue eyes darted around like birds trying to escape from a cage. Around her, 5 executives in suits stood like useless statues, whispering to each other about episodes and behavioral crises. Marcus was 42 years old and had 20 years of experience dealing with special children, first as a teacher, then as the father of an autistic daughter. He knew sensory overload when he saw it, and he also knew that these rich people had no idea what they were doing. "Can I try to help?" Marcus stepped forward, his calm voice cutting through the collective panic. The security guard blocked his way with his arm. "You're just the night janitor. Stay out of this." The last employee who tried to approach her was fired on the spot. Marcus didn't answer. Instead, his eyes met hers, and something passed between them. A silent recognition that transcended any social barrier. He had seen that same lost look in his own daughter's eyes, Zoe, years ago. Completely ignoring the security guard, Marcus walked over to his cleaning cart and picked up a small bottle of detergent. Then, without a word, he sat down on the Italian marble floor, keeping a respectful distance of 10 ft from the girl. He dipped his fingers into the water in the bucket and began blowing soap bubbles. 1, 2, 3, the girl's swaying slowed, her eyes fixed on the iridescent spheres, floating through the air like secrets reluctant to land. Marcus continued, each bubble a small work of ephemeral art, each carrying a little of the tension away. From the upper mezzanine, a woman watched, silently. Gabrielle Ward, billionaire CEO of Wardstone Biotech, had commanded rooms full of world leaders and crushed hostile takeovers before her second breakfast. But now, watching a janitor calm her daughter with soap bubbles, she could barely breathe. Ava, her daughter, her mystery, her heaviest burden, was finally quiet. Not because of the $15,000 a week therapists, not because of the specialists brought in from Switzerland, because of a black man in a janitor's uniform who had the courage to sit on the floor. Gabrielle took the elevator, her Louboutin heels echoing like sentences on the marble. As she approached the scene, all the executives automatically straightened up. But Marcus continued blowing bubbles, completely oblivious to the corporate storm that was about to break over him. "Mr. Williams," Gabrielle's voice cut through the air like broken glass. "I need to talk to you now." Marcus stood up slowly, his eyes still on the girl who was now lying on her side, completely calm, watching a single bubble hover just above her face. He knew he was about to be fired. 20 years of his career destroyed by a moment of compassion. But when he looked into Gabrielle Ward's eyes, he saw something he didn't expect. Not anger, but something much more dangerous. Gratitude. And anyone who knows, the truly powerful knows that their gratitude always comes with a price you never saw coming. If you're enjoying this story of how a simple act of kindness was about to change 2 lives forever, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what happened in that office over the next 15 minutes would completely rewrite the rules of the game. Gabrielle Ward's office took up the entire 4th floor with floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a panoramic view of Manhattan that cost more than most people earned in a decade. Marcus entered slowly, his rubber sneakers making a muffled sound on the 6F figure Persian rug. "Sit down," Gabrielle ordered, gesturing to a leather chair that probably cost more than Marcus's monthly salary. She remained standing behind her glass desk, an intimidation tactic she had perfected in 1,000 corporate meetings. "Who taught you that?" she finally asked, her blue eyes fixed on him like lasers. "The bubbles, the technique, whatever that was." Marcus took a deep breath. "My daughter has autism. I learned out of necessity." "Your daughter." Gabrielle repeated the words as if testing a strange concept. "And where did you learn about therapeutic techniques?" "Some extension course weekend workshop." The condescension was subtle, but Marcus caught it immediately. 20 years of dealing with rich parents, who thought money-bought expertise had taught him to recognize that tone. "I was a special education teacher for 17 years, he replied calmly. "Specialization in autism spectrum disorders from Columbia." Master's degree in educational psychology. The silence that followed was deafening. Gabrielle blinked once, then twice, as if processing a system error. Teacher. She said the word slowly, as if savoring a particularly elaborate lie. And now you work as a night janitor. People have to eat, Marcus replied flatly. Education budgets were cut. Special education programs were the first to go. It's not exactly a hot market for teachers, specializing in children. The system prefers to ignore. Gabrielle sat up finally, her executive control wavering for the first time in years. You're telling me you have more qualifications than most of the therapists I've hired for Eva, and you're working as a janitor. I'm saying that qualifications on paper mean nothing if you don't know how to connect. Marcus leaned forward slightly. How many specialists have you brought in for Eva? 10, 20? All with impressive degrees and even more impressive price tags. The muscle in Gabrielle's jaw tightened. 43. 43 different professionals in 4 years. And how many of them got her to talk? None. Marcus nodded. Because they came to fix her. I came to get to know her. Gabrielle was silent for a long moment, studying the man in front of her. Everything about him challenged her carefully organized categories. A black janitor with a master's degree. A man who cleaned bathrooms but spoke like an academic. Someone she had assumed was disposable, but who possessed exactly the skill she had been desperately searching for years. I want to hire you, she finally said, to work with Eva as a therapeutic consultant. $15,000 a month part-time. You keep your current job until we're sure it works. Marcus laughed. A Lowrich sound that echoed through the marble and steel office. Ms. Ward, you're not offering me a job. You're trying to buy your way out of a moral dilemma. Gabrielle's face hardened instantly. Excuse me? You've just discovered that you completely underestimated someone, based on his work clothes and the color of his skin. Now you're trying to turn me into another employee to make yourself feel better about your own prejudice. I'm not prejudiced, Gabrielle snapped, her voice cutting like glass. Then why did you assume I was just an uneducated janitor? Why didn't you ask about my background before judging me unfit to be around? Your daughter? Gabrielle opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. For the first time in decades, someone had broken through her corporate armor and exposed something she didn't want to see. Marcus rose slowly. Ava doesn't need another expensive employee. Ms. Ward, she needs someone who sees her for who she is, not the project you want her to become. Then what do you suggest? Gabrielle's voice was lower now. Less command and more genuine question. Let me spend time with her. No cameras, no stopwatches, no progress reports. Just time. And in return, Marcus smiled. Not the professional smile he reserved for hostile bosses, but something genuine and slightly dangerous. In return, maybe your daughter will learn that the world isn't just a cold place, full of people trying to change her. He walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Mrs. Ward, next time someone stops to help your daughter, maybe consider asking about their qualifications before assuming they don't exist. The door closed with a soft click, leaving Gabrielle alone with a realization that bothered her more than any defeat in court or loss on the stock market. She had found exactly what she was looking for in the last place. She would have thought to look, and she had almost lost it because of her own prejudices. But what she didn't know was that Marcus Williams had spent 4 years watching the rich and powerful through their most vulnerable moments, cleaning their offices, listening to their private conversations, witnessing their weaknesses when they thought no one was paying attention. And now, for the first time, one of them had given him exactly the opening he'd been waiting for to show. That intelligence and compassion didn't come with price tags or dress codes. 3 days passed before Gabrielle Ward broke the silence. The call came during Marcus's night shift, her voice sounding different. Less corporate command, more human hesitation. Ava hasn't eaten since our conversation, she said without preamble. She hasn't drawn. She hasn't spoken. She's regressing. Marcus paused in his cleaning of the executive bathroom. And what do you want from me? Accept my offer, please. I haven't changed my mind about the terms, Marcus replied calmly. No supervision, no stopwatches, no reports. Agreed. The next morning, Marcus arrived at Gabrielle's Upper East Side penthouse with his 16-year-old daughter, Zoe, at his side. The teenager, who had inherited her father's emotional intelligence and the insight of someone who had grown up, observing the world through different lenses, carried a backpack full of art supplies. I thought Eva might benefit from interacting with someone closer to her age, Marcus explained when Gabrielle opened the door, clearly surprised. She's 16, Gabrielle noted, as if that were a problem. And Eva is 8. Sometimes the age gap creates a safe space that peers can't offer. Zoe smiled politely. Hello, Mrs. Ward. My father told me about Eva. I brought some materials that might interest her. Gabrielle studied the young woman, her quiet confidence, the way she spoke without intimidation, the natural way she entered the apartment as if she belonged there. It was disconcerting to see such poise in someone so young, especially someone from a background so different from hers. Eva was in the same position as always, huddled in the corner of her room. But when she saw Zoe, something changed in her eyes. The teenager sat down on the floor naturally, taking a set of watercolors and textured paper out of her backpack. Hi, Eva. I'm Zoe. You don't have to talk to me if you don't want to, but I thought we could paint together. What happened over the next 2 hours left Gabrielle completely disarmed. Not only did Eva approach Zoe, she began mixing colors, creating shades she had never tried before. And when Zoe began telling stories about the colors, how blue was the sky wanting to hug the earth, how yellow was the sun laughing, Eva whispered her first word in days. Orange. That's right. Zoe smiled. Orange is when red and yellow decide to dance together. Marcus watched from the doorway, making mental notes not only about Eva, but about Gabrielle's reactions. The woman was discreetly filming with her cell phone, a corporate habit of documenting everything, but also something deeper. For the first time, she was seeing her daughter not as a problem to be solved, but as a person being understood. But the peace didn't last long. Mrs. Ward, the voice, came from the intercom. Dr. Peaton is here for his scheduled session with Eva. Gabrielle's face hardened. I completely forgot. Dr. Harrison Peaton was exactly the kind of expert Gabrielle used to hire. Harvard degree, expensive suits, obscene fees, and an arrogance that filled any room before he even entered it. At 52, he had built a lucrative career treating the children of the elite, charging $15,000 a session to apply techniques he could have learned from any basic manual. Gabrielle, dear, he entered the apartment as if he owned the place. Barely noticing Marcus and Zoe, let's see how our little Eva is progressing today. He stopped when he saw the scene on the floor, Eva painting calmly alongside, Zoe, Marcus sitting nearby, taking notes in a worn notebook. What is this? Peaton asked, his voice heavy with professional disdain. Who are these people? Dr. Peaton, this is Marcus. Williams and his daughter Zoe. They're helping Eva. Peaton let out a laugh that sounded more like a bark. Helping Gabrielle. You can't just let anyone interact with a child who needs specialized care. That's irresponsible and potentially harmful. Marcus rose slowly, his height becoming more apparent. Dr. Peaton, isn't it? I've read some of your articles. Interesting how your revolutionary techniques are almost identical to the standard practices we teachers were using 10 years ago. Teachers? Peaton laughed again. Ah, so you're one of those? Let me guess. Special education, some community college? You believe that love and patience solve everything. Columbia. Master's degree in educational psychology. 17 years of practical experience. And you're right about one thing. I believe that love and patience work better than arrogance and inflated prices. The silence that followed was tense. Eva had stopped painting and was looking between the adults, her shoulders beginning to tense. Gabrielle Peaton said, his voice now icy. If you want to continue with my services, I must insist that you keep amateurs away from Eva's treatment. This is completely unprofessional. Gabrielle looked at Eva, who had instinctively moved closer to Zoe, then at Marcus, who remained impressively calm in the face of the obvious hostility, and finally at Peaton, whose posture radiated the kind of authority she had respected for years without question. Dr. Peaton, she said finally, perhaps we can schedule another day, if that's how you want to conduct your daughter's treatment, he replied, picking up his leather briefcase. I can't be held responsible for the results. When this experiment fails, and it will fail, my phone number will remain the same. After he left, the apartment fell silent. Eva had returned to painting, but her brushstrokes were faster, more agitated. Does he always talk like that? Zoe asked. Gabrielle nodded slowly. Most experts, they're so sure about everything. "Si certi," Marcus muttered, writing something in his notebook, "is a luxury only those who have never doubted themselves can afford." That night, after Marcus and Zoe had left, Gabrielle lay awake reviewing everything she had witnessed. For the first time in years, Ava had spent 3 hours without a single crisis. She had tried new colors. She had connected with another person, and the man who had made this possible had been instantly discredited by an expert who charged more for one session than Marcus earned in 2 months. What she didn't know was that Marcus had spent those 3 hours not only observing Eva, but her as well. Every reaction, every hesitation, every moment of doubt had been carefully noted in his notebook, because Marcus Williams had learned something important during his years. Cleaning executive offices. The most powerful people in the world are rarely confronted with their own contradictions. And when they finally are, the revelation can be devastating. As he walked through the dark streets toward the subway, Marcus opened his phone and sent a message to a contact he hadn't used in months. "I need a favor tomorrow night. It's about that project we discussed." The reply came within seconds. "I thought you gave up on that idea." "I gave up a lot of things when my wife died. But some battles are worth fighting, especially when you finally find the right battlefield." The emergency meeting of the Wardstone Biotech Medical Board took place on a gray Thursday, called by Dr. Peaton after he discovered that Marcus had been formally hired as Ava's therapeutic consultant. The conference room smelled of expensive coffee and bruised egos. "This is absurd." Peaton slammed his papers down on the glass table. "A company of Wardstone stature cannot allow unqualified charlatans to compromise serious medical treatment." Dr. Miranda Foster, a child neuropsychiatrist, nodded vigorously. "I couldn't agree more. Soap bubble therapy. That's dangerous pseudoscience." Gabrielle sat at the head of the table, her laptop open. But her attention was divided between the discussion and the photos she was receiving from Eva. The girl painting, smiling, interacting with Zoe in ways she hadn't done in years. "Ms. Ward," Dr. Peaton leaned forward. "I need to be blunt. If you continue with this experiment, I can no longer associate my name with Eva's care. My professional reputation is at stake." "Your reputation?" Gabrielle repeated, slowly. "Based on what results exactly, Dr. Peaton?" The silence that followed was uncomfortable. In 2 years of treatment, Ava had shown no significant progress under Peaton's care. Then the door opened and Marcus entered, wearing not his janitor's uniform but a simple suit and carrying a leather briefcase. Behind him was an elegant, gay-haired woman whom no one recognized immediately. "Mrs. Ward, thank you for allowing me to participate in this discussion," Marcus said calmly, completely ignoring the hostile looks around the table. "You weren't invited," Dr. Foster hissed. Actually, the woman behind Marcus smiled. "I asked for him to be here. Dr. Sarah Chun, editor-in-chief of the Journal of Child Psychology. I'm here to discuss some troubling irregularities that have come to our attention." Peaton's face palled visibly. Marcus opened his briefcase and removed a series of documents. "During my 4 years working in this building at night, I have had involuntary access to many conversations and documents. Initially, I ignored it, but when I noticed the pattern, I began to document it." He slid photographs across the table. "Dr. Peaton, these are copies of your reports on Eva from the last 18 months. All identical, just with different dates. Copy and paste isn't exactly what I would call personalized care. That's invasion of privacy," Peaton stammered. "It's documentation of medical fraud," Dr. Chun corrected coldly, "charging $15,000. A session using prefabricated reports is a federal crime," Marcus continued, his voice remaining calm as chaos erupted around the table. "Dr. Foster, here are transcripts of your phone conversations, discussing how to extend treatment for wealthy children to maximize profits." Inadvertently recorded by the office cleaning system, but perfectly audible, Dr. Foster stood up abruptly, knocking over his chair. "I'm going to sue you all." "With what money?" Marcus smiled for the first time. "Because the federal investigation into your overbilling scheme began this morning based on evidence I've collected over 4 years." Gabrielle watched, fascinated, as the men who had treated her maternal despair as a business opportunity began to crumble before her eyes. "You know what else I found out?" Marcus opened another file. Ava wasn't the only child receiving purposely prolonged, ineffective treatments. I found documents from 17 different families, all billed for therapies these professionals knew were inadequate. Dr. Peaton tried one last card. You're just a janitor with a hero complex. No court will take your accusations seriously. Marcus laughed, a rich, genuine sound that echoed through the room. Dr. Peaton, you're right about one thing. I really am just a janitor. But I'm also the janitor who spent 1,400 nights cleaning your offices, listening to your private conversations, photographing documents you left open on your desks. He turned to Gabrielle. And I'm the man who realized that Ava didn't need more expensive therapists. She needed someone who saw her as a person, not a source of income. Dr. Peaton stood up, trying to maintain some dignity. This isn't over. I have connections influence. You had Dr. Chen corrected. The state medical board will be notified today. Your licenses are being reviewed and the families you exploited have already been contacted by lawyers, specializing in medical malpractice. As Peaton and Foster left the room like fugitives, Gabrielle was left alone with Marcus and Dr. Chun. Why did you help me? Gabrielle asked. Marcus closed his briefcase. Because Ava deserved someone who would fight for her. And because sometimes justice needs witnesses who no one notices are paying attention. At that moment, Gabrielle's phone vibrated with a message from Zoe. Ava said her first, complete sentence today. Daddy Marcus coming back tomorrow. Gabrielle looked at Marcus, tears in her eyes. She called you daddy. Kids, Marcus smiled. They always know who really cares about them, regardless of diplomas on the wall or hourly rates. But what none of them knew was that this would be just the first of many transformations to come. Because when you challenge an entire system based on prejudice and greed, the ripples you create can change much more than a single life. 6 months later, Marcus Williams stood on the main stage of the Jacob Javits Convention Center, receiving a standing ovation. For more than 3,000 mental health professionals gathered at the National Autism Congress. At his side, Eva smiled shilly, holding a pink microphone she had chosen especially for the occasion. My name is Eva, she said, her clear voice echoing throughout the auditorium. And this is Daddy Marcus. He taught me that being different doesn't mean you're broken. The audience erupted in applause. In the front row, Gabrielle discreetly wiped away tears, no longer caring about her carefully constructed corporate image. Dr. Peaton and Dr. Foster had become paras in the medical community. Federal investigations resulted in fines of $2 million each, loss of medical licenses, and a list of malpractice lawsuits that would keep them busy for the next 10 years. Peaton now sold life insurance over the phone in Newark. Foster had moved to Montana, where he was trying to rebuild his life as an Uber driver. The Williams Ward program for neurodiverse inclusion, Marcus continued, isn't just about therapy. It's about recognizing that every child brings unique gifts to the world that we need to learn to value. The foundation he and Gabriel had created together had already trained more than 500 educators in unconventional techniques. The therapeutic bubbles method had been documented in 17 academic studies, showing superior results to traditional treatments in 86% of cases. Zoe, now 17, had become a nationally recognized advocate for the rights of neurodiverse children. Her speech to Congress 3 months earlier had resulted in the passage of a federal law, guaranteeing access to alternative therapies in the public health system. You know what moves me the most? Marcus continued, watching the attentive faces in the audience. Ava is no longer alone. We have 237 children in the program, each discovering his or her own language of colors, sounds, and movements. And their parents, executives, doctors, teachers are learning that love has no technical protocol. Gabrielle had stepped down as president of Wardstone Biotech to devote herself fully to the foundation. Her personal fortune, once focused on corporate acquisitions, now funded inclusion centers in 16 states. The Wall Street Journal had dedicated a cover story to her, titled From the Boardroom to the Floor, How a CEO Learned to Lead. On her knees, people ask me, Marcus smiled at the live camera, if I feel angry about the years I lost cleaning toilets when I could have been teaching. The truth is, those years taught me something no university could: how to observe, how to listen, how to recognize value where others see only invisibility. Ava stepped up to the microphone again. Daddy Marcus says, we're all works of art. Some of us just need different paints. In the audience, parents cried openly. Professionals took frantic notes. Journalists documented every word of a girl who 3 years earlier had been considered a lost cause by traditional medicine. The greatest irony, Marcus concluded, is that the men who tried to silence me ended up amplifying my voice to the whole world. Dr. Peaton was right about one thing. I was just a janitor. But he forgot that janitors spend years observing, learning, documenting, and when they finally decide to speak, they have a lot to say. The audience rose to its feet in ovation. Flashes went off. Social media exploded with your janitor teacher and your advocate. That night at the gala dinner, Marcus received the National Award for Innovation in Special Education. In his acceptance speech, he dedicated the award to all the children who were called broken, when they were really just misunderstood, and to the parents who had the courage to question experts, who charged fortunes to apply prejudices disguised as science. Eva slept in Gabrielle's lap on the drive home, her fingers still stained with blue and yellow paint from the artwork she had led earlier. Zoe edited a video on her laptop, documenting another day in the life of a family that had completely redefined the meaning of normal. "Do you know what changed everything?" Gabrielle asked Marcus as they watched the urban landscape roll by the car window. "What?" "You refused to accept the place they assigned you. If you had remained just the invisible janitor, Ava would still be silent. I'd still be paying charlatans. And 237 other families would still be looking for answers in the wrong places." Marcus smiled. "Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying those who underestimate you. It's proving them so wrong that the whole world notices. Today, the Williams method is taught at 43 universities. Eva at 12 paints pictures that are sold in New York galleries with all proceeds going to inclusion programs. And Marcus, he never had to clean a bathroom again in his life, but he keeps his janitor's uniform framed in his office with a plaque that reads, "Reminder of when people thought they knew who I was." If this story of how one man turned prejudice into purpose touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that the greatest revolution happens when we stop accepting the place others choose for us and start building the world our children deserve to live.